Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our buddy read of Mr. Scarborough's Family. As you can see, we are approaching the end. What a great time we have had with this book. What a lot of fun we have had with this book. But we are approaching the end, and Trollope is wrapping things up. But he has some elements of the story that are still a little bit outstanding. Some of them we've seen him wrap up, or at least he's alluded that they'll be easy to wrap up by the characters themselves once the book is over. But we still have some balls in the air. So let's move on to chapter 53. This is called The Beginning of the Last Plot. What does that mean? What could that possibly mean? Probably it means the last section of the book. What else could it mean? When Mr. Scarborough had written the check and sent it to Mr. Gray, that's the check to cover the gambling debt that Montjoy Scarborough, his son, raised out of nowhere. He had to go to someone's house to do it. He's not welcome in any gambling clubs. He had to go to someone's house to get fleeced. He can't help himself. He did not utter another word on the subject of gambling. Let us make another beginning, he said, as he told his son to make out another check for £60 as the first installment of the allowance. He is giving Montjoy an allowance as long as Montjoy lives at Tretton Park. And he's told Montjoy, you can enjoy the grounds. There are meals every day, luxurious appointments. There's shooting. If you want, you can have friends over, but you can't gamble. No gambling here at all. And in exchange for that, not only will I house you here and give you an allowance, but I'm also planning something else to your benefit, your material benefit. I do not like to take it, said the son. I don't know you need to be scrupulous now with me. That was early in the morning at that first interview, about 10 o'clock. Later on the day, Mr. Scarborough saw his son again, and on this occasion kept him in the room for some time. I don't suppose I shall last much longer now, he said. Your voice is as strong today as I've ever heard it. But unfortunately, my body does not keep pace with my voice. From what Merton tells me, I don't suppose there is another month left. I don't see why Merton is to know. Merton is a good fellow, and if you can do anything for him, do it, for my sake. I will. Then he added, after a pause, if things go on as we expect, Augustus can do more for him than I. Why don't you leave him a sum of money? That's what Mr. Scarborough is talking about. Do something for him. Do something for him when I'm dead. Because he's been attending to me all these weeks, and it's been very good of him to do. Then Miss Scarborough came into the room and hovered about her brother and fed him and entreated him to be silent. But when she had gone, he went back to the subject. I will tell you why, Montjoy. I have not wished to load my will with other considerations, so that it might seem solicitude for you has been my last moment's only thought. Of course I have done you a deep injury. I think you have. Meaning he's declared him illegitimate. Montjoy doesn't believe it. And because you tell me so, I like you all the better. As for Augustus, but I will not burden my spirit now at the last with uttering curses against my own son. He is not worth it. That's Montjoy who says this. Montjoy doesn't have a penny to rub together. Can't help himself. Ends up in squalid gambling holes and knows it about himself. He knows it about himself. He knows that he's a worthless gambling addict. He's not good for a £10 note that you gave him. But what does he instantly say about his brother, a prosperous lawyer? That he's not worth it. It's not worth thinking about. And we all agree with him. We all agree with him. This has to do with personalities, not with your behavior, at least not at the moment. No, said his father, he is not worth it. What a fool he has been not to have understood me better. Now you are not half as clever a fellow as he is. I dare say not. You never read a book, I suppose? I don't pretend to read him, which he does. I don't know anything about that, but he has been utterly unable to read me. I have poured out my money with open hands for both of you. That is true, sir, certainly as regards to me. Montjoy knows it better than anybody. He said, how many debts covered? And I have thought nothing of it. Till it was quite hopeless with you, I went on, and would have gone on. As things were then, I was bound to do something to save the property. That is what Mr. Scarborough did. That's why he disinherited Montjoy. Because Montjoy had already raised such gambling debts against the property that it would all have gone to the moneylenders. And Mr. Scarborough is proud of Tretton Park. He's proud of what he's built with his own two hands, as he alludes, even though he hasn't done it. We're told that it is just the accident of industry. It could easily have happened at Boston Hall. It's just the accident of circumstance, of the delft that is present in the land, that makes his land valuable. But notice what he's doing here. All through the book, he has said he doesn't give a straw for what people think of him. doesn't care about society's opinion. And every single time he says that, he is in the process of trying to justify himself. Here he's on his deathbed, a month left to live, still justifying himself. These poor devils have put themselves out of the running now, said Montjoy, referring to his creditors, who have taken a lump sum of money and torn up their debts. Tretton Park now has no claims on it at all. Of course, it didn't to begin with, if Montjoy's not the heir. But now it doesn't even on paper. There are no debts. Yes, Augustus, with his suspicion, has enabled us to do that. After all, he was quite right with his suspicions. What do you mean by that, sir? Well, it was natural enough that he should not trust me. I think, too, that perhaps he saw a screw loose where old Gray did not. Mr. Gray is Mr. Scarborough's lawyer. But he was such an ass that he could not bring himself to keep on good terms with me for the few months that were left. And then he brought that brute Jones down here, without saying a word to me as to asking my leave. And here he used to remain, hardly ever coming to see me, but waiting for my death from day to day. He is a cold-blooded, selfish brute. He certainly takes after neither his father nor his mother. But he will find yet, perhaps, that I am even with him before all is over. It's an interesting comment. We don't know anything about Mrs. Scarborough. But I think we would all agree that although Mr. Scarborough is unbelievably unconventional, he isn't a brute. I think we'd agree with his assessment of himself there. I shall try it on with him, sir. I have told you from the beginning, and now, if I have this money, it will give me the means of doing so. You ought to know for what purpose I shall use it. What Montjoy is saying here is when old Mr. Scarborough dies, he intends to contest this whole business of the entail. Of course, Tretton Park belongs to him. He's the eldest son. Who cares what a pile of papers say? But the pile of papers document that he's not. That is all settled, said the father. The document properly completed has gone back with the clerk. Were I to die this minute, you would find that everything inside the house is your own, and everything outside except the bare acres. There is a lot of plate with the banker which I have not wanted of late years. There are a lot of trinkets, too, things which I used to fancy, though I have not cared so much for them lately. There are a few pictures which are worth money, and the books are the most valuable, only you do not care for them. I shall not have a house to put them in, says Scarborough. There is no saying. What an idiot, what a fool, what a blind, unthinking ass Augustus has been. Do you regret that, sir? That he should not have them and the house too? I regret that my son should have been such a fool. I did not expect that he would love me. I did not even want him to be kind to me. Had he remained away and been silent, that would have been sufficient. But he came here to enjoy himself as he looked about the park which he thought would be his own, and insulted me because I would not die at once and leave him in possession. And then he was a fool enough to make a way for you again, and did not perceive that by getting rid of your creditors he had once again put you in a position to be his rival. I don't know whether I hate him the most for the hardness of his heart, or despise him for the slowness of his intellect. This is the Mr. Scarborough that we love. During the time when these words had been spoken, Miss Scarborough had once or twice come into the room, and besought her brother to take some refreshment which he offered him, and then give himself up to rest. But he had refused to be guided by her till he had come to a point in the conversation at which he was found himself thoroughly exhausted. Now she came for the third time, and that period had arrived, so that Montjoy was told to go about his business and shoot birds or hunt foxes in accordance with his natural proclivities. It was then 3 o'clock on a gloomy December afternoon, and was too late for the shooting of birds, and as for the hunting of foxes, the hounds were not in the neighborhood. So he resolved to go through the house and look at all the properties which were soon to become his own. Might want to pick up a book and read it. And what are those pictures? What are they? A Reynolds? A Landseer? Something earlier? Something we would consider that belongs in a museum? What are they? He had once strolled into the library. This was a long, gloomy room which contained perhaps 10,000 volumes, the greater number of which had, in the days of Montjoy's early youth, been brought together by his own father, and they had been bound in the bindings of modern times so that the shelves were bright, although the room itself was gloomy. Yeah, we got that, Tony. Thanks. I'd love to know about the room. Does it have any natural lighting? 10,000 books. What's the seating like? All the questions that we have. What's the seating like? Is there a table to read at or write at? He took out a book after a book and told himself with something of sadness in his heart that they were all caviar to him, meaning he doesn't care for them. But he's a little sad that he doesn't care for That's not worth much. We'd still rather have that library, but still. Then he reminded himself that he was not yet 30 years of age, and there was surely time enough left to make them his companions. Yes, Montjoy? Yes, you could. He took one at random and found it to be a volume of Clarendon's History of the Rebellion, which gets a little asterisk on a footnote, but I can heartily recommend it. Clarendon's History of the Rebellion is wonderful reading. Wonderful rococo reading. Just wonderful rolling prose. He pitched upon a sentence in which he counted that there were 16 lines, and when he began to read it, it became to him utterly confused and unintelligible. So he put it back and went to another portion of the room and took down Wither's Hallelujah. Okay, it's not Clarendon, Montjoy, it's you. As I've said innumerable times on this channel, your reading mind is a muscle. If you don't ever exercise it, it withers. If you don't ever exercise it for years and years, it dies, and you have to grow it again in order to use it. It's not a birthright. Reading Clarendon takes a little bit of effort. It takes a little bit of discipline. You need experience. That muscle needs to be in fairly good shape. Anyway, and of this he could make neither head nor tail. He was informed by a heading in the book itself that a piece of poetry was to be sung as the Ten Commandments. He could not do that, and put the book back again, and declared to himself that further search would be useless. And notice, Clarendon's History of the Rebellion gets a footnote, but that a certain piece of verse should be sung as the Ten Commandments does not. I know what that means in the context of the 1880s. Do you? Little slipshod in the Oxford editing here, which is ordinarily excellent. He looked around the room and tried to price the books, and told himself that 3 or 4 days at a club might see the end of it all. See, he has no illusions. No matter how much all these 10,000 books are worth, they'll go down the drain at a club in 2 or 3 days. Then he wandered on into the state drawing room, an apartment which he had not entered for years, and found that all the furniture was carefully covered. Of what use could it be to him? Unless that it too would be sent to the melting pot and brought into some short-lived use at the club. But as he was about to leave the room, he stood for a moment on the rug before the fireplace and looked into the huge mirror which stood there. If the walls might be his, as well as the garnishing of them, and if Florence Montjoy could come and reign there, then he fancied that all might be put to better purpose than that which he had thought. In earlier days, 2 or 3 years ago, at a time which now seemed to him to be the very distant, he had regarded Florence as his own, and as such it demanded her hand. In the pride of his birth and position and fashion, he had had no thought of her feelings and had been imperious. He told himself that it had been so with much self-condemnation. At any rate, he had learned during those months of solitary wandering the power of condemning himself. He knows how to condemn himself. And he's probably being honest with himself, too, here, that 10 Florence Montjoys wouldn't change things. You're still going to gamble all this away. And now he told himself that if she would yet come, he might still learn to sing the song of the old-fashioned poet, quote, as the Ten Commandments. At any rate, he would endeavor to sing it, and as she bade him. He went on through all the bedrooms, remembering but hardly more than remembering them as he entered them. "Oh, Florence, my Florence," he said as he passed on. He had done it all for himself, brought down upon his head this infinite ruin, and for what? He had scarcely ever won, and Tretton Park was gone from him forever. But still there might yet be a chance, if he could abstain from gambling. More than a chance, not for Florence. Her heart is elsewhere, and Trollope is done with that subject. He is done with making you wonder if she's ever going to change her mind. She is devoted to Harry Annesley. But certainly a chance for all sorts of other things, including a woman you might love just as much. You're going to be an independently wealthy man. Tretton or no Tretton, you're going to be an independently wealthy man. If you can give up gambling. But he can't, and he knows he can't. And then, when it was dusk within the house, he went out and passed through the stables and roamed about the gardens till the evening had altogether set in and black night had come upon him. 2 years ago, he had known that he was heir to it all, though even then the habit was so strong upon him he felt that his tenure of it would be but slight. But he had then always to tell himself that his marriage had taken place, a great change would be effected. His marriage had not taken place, and the next fatal year had fallen upon him. As long as the inheritance of the estate was certainly his, he could assuredly raise money at a certain cost. There would be a limit to that. It was well known that the property was rising in value, and the money was always forthcoming, at a tremendous sacrifice. 50% interest, 60% interest. He had excused himself his recklessness on the grounds of his delayed marriage, but still always treating her, on the few occasions on which they had met, with an imperiousness which had been natural to him. Then the final crash had come, and the estate was as good as gone. But the crash, which had been in truth final, had come afterwards, almost as soon as his father had learned what was to be the fate of Tretton, and he found himself to be a bastard with a dishonored mother, just a nobody in the eyes of the world. And he learned at the same time that Harry Ainsley was the lover of Florence Mountjoy, whom she really loved. What had followed had been told already, perhaps too often. But at that, referring to the fight between him and Harry Ainsley. But at this moment, as he stood in the gloom of the night, below the porch in the front of his house, swinging his stick up at the top of the big steps, an acknowledgment of contrition was very heavy upon him. Though he was prepared to go to law the moment Augustus put himself forward as the eldest son, he did recognize how long-suffering his father had been, and how much had been done for him in order to, if possible, to preserve him. And he knew, whatever might be the results of his lawsuit, that his father's only purpose had been to save the property for one of them. As it was, legacies which might be valued at perhaps £30,000 would be his. That's a staggering amount of money. He would expend it all on the lawsuit, if he could find lawyers to undertake his suit. His anger, too, against his brother was quite as hot as that of his father. When he had been obliterated and obliged to vanish from the joint effects of his violence in the street and his inability to pay his gambling debts at the club, he had in an evil moment submitted himself to Augustus. And from that hour Augustus had become to him the most cruel of tyrants. And this tyranny had come to an end with his absolute banishment from his brother's house. Though he had been subdued to obedience in the lowest moment of his fall, he was not the man who could bear such tyranny well. "I can forgive my father," he said, "but Augustus I will never forgive." Then he went into the house, and in a short time was sitting at dinner with Merton, the young doctor and secretary. Mrs. Scarborough seldom came to table at that hour, but remained in the room upstairs, close to her brother, so that she might be within call should she be wanted. "Upon the whole, Merton," he said, "what do you think of my father?" The doctor shrugged his shoulders. "Will he live, or will he die?" "Well, he will die, certainly." "Oh, don't joke with me." But I know that you would not joke on such a subject. And my question did not merely go as to the state of his health. What do you think of him as a man, generally? Do you call him an honest man? How am I to answer you? He's at his host's table, for Pete's sake. Just tell me the truth. If you will have an answer, I do not consider him an honest man. All this story about your brother is true or is not true. In neither case can one look upon him as honest. Just so. But I think that he has within him a capacity for love and an unselfishness which almost atones for his dishonesty. There is about him a strange dislike to conventionality and to the law which is so interesting as to make up the balance. I have always regarded your father as the most excellent man, but thoroughly dishonest. He would rob anyone, but always to eke out his own gifts to other people. He has therefore, to my eyes, been most romantic. And as to his health? That I cannot answer so decidedly. He will do nothing because I tell him. Merton and the great doctor from London have both said, if you will take care of your health, you might prolong your stay by a year. Do you mean that he could prolong his life? Certainly, I think it could. He has exerted himself this morning, whereas I've advised him not to exert himself. He could have given himself the same counsel, and would certainly live longer by obeying it than the reverse. As there is no difficulty in the matter, there need be no conceit on my part in saying that so far as my advice may be of service to him. So how long will he live? Notice Mountjoy is not asking the way Augustus would. Who can say? Sir William Broderick, when that fearful operation was performed in London, thought that a month would see the end of it. That is 8 months ago, and he has more vitality now than he had then. For myself, I do not think that he can live another month. Later on in the evening, Mountjoy Scarborough began again, so they're still together. The governor thinks that you have behaved uncommonly well to him. I am paid for it. But he has not left you anything in his will. I have certainly not expected anything. There could be no reason why he should. He has entertained an idea of late that he wishes to make what reparations may be possible to me. And therefore, he says, he does not choose to burden his will with legacies. There is some provision made for my aunt, who, however, has her own fortune. He has told me to look after you. It will be quite unnecessary, said Mr. Merton. If you choose to cut up rough, you can do so. I would propose that we should fix a sum of money that will be yours at his death, just as though he had left it to you. Indeed, he shall fix the sum himself. Merton, of course, said nothing of the kind would be necessary, but in this understanding Mountjoy Scarborough went that night to bed. Early on the following morning, his father again sent for him. Mountjoy, he said, I have thought much about it, and I have changed my mind. About your will? No, nothing about my will at all. That shall remain as it is. I do not think I should have the strength to make another will, nor do I wish to do so. You mean about Merton, then? I don't mean about Merton at all. Give him £500. He ought to be satisfied. There's a matter of more importance than Mr. Merton, or even than my will. What is it? Said Mountjoy, in a tone of much surprise. I do not think I can tell you now, but it is right that you should know that Merton wrote by my instructions to Mr. Grey early this morning and has implored him to come to Tretton once again. There, I can say no more about it now. This is twice now that Mr. Scarborough has called Mr. Grey to Tretton and then told him as he was leaving, I will never call you again. Now it's a third time. And he turned round on his couch, as was his custom, and was unassailable. And that is the end of the chapter. Mr. Scarborough has called for Mr. Grey to come down to Tretton Park. But it's not about giving any money to his caretaker, and it's also not about his will. And the next chapter is called Rummelsburg. And the handful of you who are doing me the honor of reading this book along with me without going ahead, let's just say you're going to be glad you did. So I will wrap this up for now, and we will come together next time for Rummelsburg. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.